2, 1. Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson, and my guest today is none other than the long-term Galactic veteran, Alex Collier. Hi, Alex, how you doing?
Hi, Danny. It's great to see you and be with you.
You too. Alex, it is March 24th today. It could be the 25th, actually, 2023. It's such a bonkers time. Everybody, everything, all the systems. Before we get into the updates and current stat, for example, let's go into the last time that you and I were physically present together. Now, we've known each other a long time. And the last physical time we were together was at the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection last October. Can you tell us what your experience was at this event?
Well, I will do my best to put that into words. You know, I went through the whole dog and pony show of the 90s in the early 2000s. And for the most part, that's all it was. Half the time we didn't get paid. Other times the checks bounced. Other times they weren't organized. It was very, very interesting. But the people that showed up were always interesting. And for many, many years, it was always the same people. Then I took a break and did a few conferences here and there. Mount Shasta, which I enjoyed a great deal. I love that area. Rob Potter's conferences, which are always a delight. But Orlando, wow, Orlando. Um, I had made a decision that, after 32 years that I didn't want to do the public speaking in front of an audience anymore. And I'm still very good with that decision. At least, as the legendary conspiracy theorist. And I don't know if it gets any better or any worse than that. But I have to tell you, Danny, that if I had to go out, that was the best. It was the top. I couldn't have imagined it being any better. Even putting aside the fact that I was honored with a lifetime award, achievement award, the people, the quality of the speakers,
Yeah.
the hotel, the security people, the other speakers, the staff that you had working for you. Just everything. I can't imagine it being any better. It was
Oh,
as if you had been a promoter of concerts and productions your whole life. It just all came together. It was just remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And, we had a few idiots, a few knuckleheads, you know, but in no way did it interfere with the quality of the people, the conferences, the way everybody felt, the sharing of love, the sharing of joy, the camaraderie. I just don't know that it could have been any better than what it was.
mm,
And, in the 32 years of slogging, trying to get people's attention to, or at least to think about stuff, uh, JSIC was the very best time I've ever had. And I mean that with all my heart.
oh,
The
Alex,
very best.
that's so beautiful to hear. That just means the world. I, for myself, obviously was surrounded by such beautiful people, and it was a real kind of divine orchestration because I had never ever put on a conference before. I mean, I've had worked on television as a host, as a presenter on live television. One time I worked on QVC.
Did you
QVC.
really?
Yeah,
Jury?
Tom, yes, in London. Yeah. I was like, here this new eyebrow thing is, and there's a light and everything. You know what I did? And like hair removal machines, and oh my goodness. But no, I had never done this, and it really was divine orchestration. And I couldn't
Yeah.
believe the speaker said yes. And it started out with you and Tony Rodriguez. I'm like, well, if they say yes, then and then I had my top three in my mind. I thought, if I get Elena Danan, Dr. Michael Salla, and Alex Collier, then I'm doing it. And I'm like, oh shit, they all said yes. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? And it was incredible. We all had incredible experiences coming up to it. Excuse me fiddling about with my naughty.
It's okay. It was family. The whole thing felt like family. And to go back to your QVC, the hair removing thing, I just want you to know I bought one and it works.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. There. See, this is what's so great about you. People like you at the top of their disclosure game. Not that it's a game to them, but they're, that when they're speaking truth, it's when you can laugh at yourself, when you can totally be yourself, when you can be completely unrehearsed, but hold that passion and hold that truth and hold that light in you, and you always exude that, And it's funny because the other day I did an update on my channel to say who's coming on. And I wrote the title like Disclosure Update, Alex Collier, Chris O'Connor, Elena Danan, and other people that are coming on in the next 2 weeks. I've got a pretty full roster of great people. And then as I'm going about to get into the live chat, there's so many people there. I'm like, oh no, they think he's coming on. They think he's coming on. I felt terrible. So I'm like, oh, this is an update. Alex will be here in the next few days. Well, here he is, guys, 2 days later. I did not tell a porcupine. But it also reminded me of you telling me so many times how so many people pimped you out, your name. They would sell tickets on your back and you weren't even invited to speak.
No, I didn't even know the conference was happening.
Right. How do people get away with that? Seriously, how does that happen?
Because, nobody took this seriously. No one did. They all laughed and thought it was a joke. And, they're all conspiracy theorists. They have no idea what they're talking about. I'll have you know that the scientists at NASA are greatly concerned because they're running out of conspiracy theories because they've all come true.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, NASA, bless you. But you might get a lot of input from this conversation. Talking of which, we do have a special guest coming on in the next 40, 50 minutes. So we'll leave it there for now. It's always good to get surprises. All right, Alex, I watched your beautiful webinar that you do 3 times a month, 3 Fridays a month, you do a webinar, and it is completely uncensored, and you go there. It's like, listen, world, if you want to know what time it is, this is where you need to go, alexcollier.org. It's the truth. It is the truth. Oh my God, sometimes, like yesterday, you have me shrieking, laughing, dying with some of the things that you come out with. In terms of your feistiness, but the information that comes out is just so solid and loving. And so I was watching yesterday and I noticed that you mentioned the 8th chakra. And for me, long-term therapist, spiritual mentor, it's really important that people get tools, like spiritual tools, more than ever, I think, right now. And I can't believe you mentioned the 8th chakra, because the only other person that ever mentioned that I learned from was Dr. Chris Lamont, a mentor of mine who's actually on my channel a few days ago. And we're going to come on and do some spiritual tools together. So when you mentioned it, I was like, hallelujahing, like, oh my God, he mentioned the 8th chakra. Can you give us your take on what that is and how we can access it to help our individual selves, please?
Okay, well, the A perspective, the Andromedan perspective on the 8th chakra is this. That is where the portal is that creates the physical holograph that is us. That's it. Okay, it's there. If we were to close that, then when we cross over, when our soul leaves the physicality and it withdraws itself back out through the 8th chakra, the chakra closes. Okay, it just closes. So our physical holograph isn't here, even though remnants of our DNA and the energy within our DNA remains. But most people have no idea that it's even there, because when you look at the classes and you look at the books and you look at the chakra light that they've been teaching everybody, or metaphysics light that they've been teaching everybody for, hundreds and hundreds of years, they kind of leave that out. They only focus on the seven, which is the physical body. And what that has done is it has forced everybody to pay more attention to the physical and not the spiritual soul part, which resides primarily in the eighth chakra. So that's their perspective on it. And every time someone leaves, if you go to sleep and you travel at night and you are soul projecting yourself out and you're astral traveling, what happens is you go to the eighth chakra. You're there. And many times when you leave, you will have a guardian watching your eighth chakra. They will come and they will guard it when you're traveling. And that silver cord that everybody talks about, it's connected to the eighth chakra. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's the solar plexus, it's the heart. Yes, that is true as well, but it's really the eighth chakra. This is where the holograph literally physically manifests, which is us. And it remains there. It's an open portal, and it's always connected to source. Always. So, even the dirtbags, even the deep state, their portal may be a little bit smaller. It may be dark and crusty, it may have slime hanging off of it. Okay. But nonetheless, everyone has it because we're all holographs. We are all physical holographs in third density.
Excuse me.
God bless you. So that's their perspective on it. And, I've heard other people say, well, you have 9, 10, 11 chakras. Okay, whatever. If that's your belief system, that's fine. Frankly, it doesn't matter. What really, truly matters is that we become aware of the fact that we have more to us than just the physicals. Because, we're spirit first. We're always spirit first. And, spirit is what's animating the physical body, and your spirit is what is connected to and through and maintaining the open portal, which the Andromedas refer to as the eighth chakra. So, ladies and gentlemen, and every time I go there with some of this stuff, I'll get nasty grams. Doesn't matter to me. If you think there's 9, if you think there's 10, whatever, that's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm going with these guys because their information's always been tried and true. So, and that's their perspective. I've done a lot of out-of-body traveling. I've been attacked. I've nearly lost my life and I had to have intervention, and the minute I come back in through my portal, I'm like, whoa, that was close. So there's no question that it's there. You could call it an escape hatch. We all have one. We all have an escape hatch. So what else do you want to know?
I'm just so grateful to you for bringing in the Andromedan's perspective of the eighth chakra. It's not like I was hiding it. I've spoken about it in other broadcasts I've done in terms of wanting to help people recognize they have more access to self, because there's such a limited knowledge in all our religions and all of our education in our schooling, even in our metaphysical teaching sometimes, depending on the agenda of the teacher or the guru that wants to keep the students connected. There's something called a guru cap, which, we have this as the, fourth is the heart, fifth is the throat, sixth is the, intuition, seventh, they say, is the crown, and then eighth is the Christ consciousness, or the Christos, or it doesn't mean it's about Jesus Christ, the man, the being. This is the universal light of source, call it what you like. And then with the gurus, and believe me, I went through the whole journey of dancing, looking at them, and then recognizing people walking around with their guru caps, and it's a real thing, meaning that the leader they've chosen to allow to siphon off their energy, or the shiny boy or the shiny girl that they've put all their faith in, because they believe they're going to survive through that person puppeteering, is they give their energy away, and then the person's energy siphons off, it plugs in, the guru cap is put on, and it cuts off the access to their beautiful source point, their 8th chakra. So again, thank you so much for mentioning that on your brilliant webinar yesterday. I was doing cartwheels around the house. Well, only in my mind, of course, but all right. So moving on to other things, I know you and I, we care very much about our brothers and our sisters. We care about them as they're all individually on their journey. And we'd like to point out, or I'll speak for myself, really want to point out to people that you really are on your own individual journey. No one's going to help you get there. There's no point in choosing side, whether it's Democrat, Republic, none of that matters. The bigger scheme of things is not the earth systems, it's you, the beautiful soul, on your journey. But as we are looking around, I would love for you to give us some information on who, in your experience, Alex Collier, long-term Andromeda contactee, who in your experience are the Earth Alliance and Space Force?
Okay.
Drop them in it.
The projection of Space Force is simply men and women of the, let's just say, United States military. Contained within that would be members of special programs, special access programs. You could also have black budget programs where people who have a unique experience are now ferreted over to another program, such as Space Force. Now, Space Force, from what we've been told, is simply communications. And on paper, that's what it says. But in reality, it's much, much bigger than that. It always has been. The purpose of creating Space Force was to take the other programs, the off-budget, the special access programs, the black budget programs, known as Solar Warden, that's the umbrella, and bringing it down to Earth. And in bringing it down to Earth, what you create is an administrative structure where we could make sense of it. Plus, by doing it that way, the next administration, the next Trump administration, can come forward, or Department of Defense, and say, okay, we are budgeting this amount of money for Space Force and everything else that it entails. And as they begin to drop information and disclosure about alien replicated vehicles, craft that we have built ourselves, such as TR-3s, 4s, 7s, 9s, etc., our carrier class ships, like what you see in Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. That all of that is part of a disclosure. Even though it's in a movie, they were showing you Space Force, they were showing you Solar Warden, and by doing that, they get people accustomed to thinking about it, to seeing it, so it doesn't come as a big shock. Well, this is all part of the whole play that's going on now, is to roll this thing out very slowly and get people used to the idea. Because, if they were to just say, okay, well, we've had this space fleet for 45, 50 years. We've been to Mars, we've been to the moon, using Lockheed space technology. We've been to the other stars. You know, the first question everybody's going to have is, well, how the hell did you pay for it? Where did the money come from? You know, is that why the derivatives is, you know, 250 trillion dollars? Was that money being used for Space Force and for Space Fleet? And those are all extremely valid questions, answers which we will probably never get because of the implications that it curtails. You know, and that is tremendous sacrifices were made, people were used, things were done to make it all happen. Good and bad became the ability to do right and to do wrong became very blurry in some of these programs because they had a focus, an agenda as to what to do and how to get there. So whatever it took, that's what they did. And, you know, when you talk about the 20 and back programs, that has to be all part of it. And what they did was wrong. There is no justifying how they did this.
Yes.
Okay. The trafficking of human beings from Earth, slaving, nothing justifies that. It really doesn't. And they know it. And they know it, which is one of the reasons why many of these programs were pushed back to Earth and our solar system, because the benevolence, which some of the are sitting on the Terran Council, are like, dude, you are not going to be flying around here doing this stuff to anybody else when you can't even be honest with your own people, your own race, when you can't even be responsible for your own race. So you need to hightail your ass back to your solar system, and we will address you there. And that's exactly what's been happening. You know, they have been dressing us down because we did a lot of things wrong. We made a lot of mistakes. And fortunately, the adults are in charge now. And they're like, you know what, you're right. We have to own this. Whether they did it or not, it doesn't matter. They're taking responsibility. The adults that are running these programs, they're stepping up and saying, you know what, you're right. We have to own this. We have to take responsibility. We have to make this right. And they will, because everybody is checking each other's work. You know, there is nothing being left to chance. There is nobody winging anything anymore, because the ramifications and the consequences are massive, especially for us on this planet, especially for the human race. We should have been out there 400 years ago. You know, we should have been. And, you know, people say, well, how can that be? We were in the 15th, you know, it was the 1200s, the 1400s, the 1500s, the 1600s. You know what? Our civilization has been started over so many times and intentionally wiped out to set us back thousands of years at a time.
Yeah.
To keep us stuck like hamsters on a wheel. And all of that's going to come out. And, you know, there are a lot of people that talk about this. Elaine has talked about this. Dan Winters has talked about this. Willis has talked about this. Michael Saul is talking about this. You know, there's all these things in history that we have now discovered that make absolutely no sense. Like the world fairs at the turn of the century. You know, how is it that in 2 years we could build a structure, I think it was in Chicago, that could hold 300,000 people, an entire enclosed structure that would hold 300,000 people at the turn of the century, and we can't do it today? How's that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make any sense. How come all the churches and many of the ancient buildings were all wired for plasma energy? for free electricity.
Yes.
What happened to all that? You know, the powers that be know. They just, as soon as we get to that place, uh-oh, they kick the brakes, they flip us upside down, and we start all over again. And we're like hamsters on the wheel. We just keep going round and round and round, you know. And now we get to this place where, okay, we're talking about free energy. We're talking about med beds. We're talking about space travel. Past generations have been exactly where we are before they were sabotaged by a pole shift, an asteroid, uh, some horrible war. Um, you know, they have been extremely creative in putting us in a place where we'd have to keep starting over. You know, they wipe out a portion of the population in what looks like a natural catastrophe, and then we have to start all over again. You know, and it's like, you know, every lifetime reincarnation's a fact, but it's interesting because our minds are wiped. Every lifetime we come in, we always have to learn how to swim again. We have to learn how to ride a bike again. Well, this is no different. And they know that because when they do these catastrophes, they're sitting off planet watching the catastrophe. Then they come in and they play God and they say, okay, well, we're going to help you start all over again. And the generations that survived have done their best to leave us pieces of history, of knowledge. And it usually gets buried or it gets destroyed by these groups, you know, that no, they never let that information out to the general masses. You know, for example, and I know Elena is probably more fluent in this than I am, but in Egypt, you know, they found spark plugs. They found spark plugs that were better built than anything we had today.
Yeah. Well, look at the Baghdad battery, over 2,000 years old. Like,
Exactly.
hello,
And they still work.
Right, exactly. Yeah, copper and iron, magnets and
Right.
crystals. This is the stuff that's coming
We had lead batteries in the 19 from 1907 to 1929. We had lead batteries that worked on lemon juice. We had electric cars then, electric buses that got 1,000 miles on a charge.
Yes.
With lead and lemon juice.
Yeah.
You know, and today we can't get 300 miles or they're on fire. You know, it's just like, it's when you know, you're just like, oh my God. And that's when the phrase shit show really settles in.
Oh my God. I know you
Yeah.
have to bring some kind of humor in because otherwise the human individual being will just collapse because everything that they believed has been a lie in terms of systems, and our advancement has been purposefully restricted on many levels. One of my favorite beautiful beings from the past that I really look up to and love his work is Nikola Tesla. As you know, the man brought us so much information, as did valiant Thor with the government. But before early 1900, we had so much technology. And one of the things that bothers me the most about how Nikola Tesla was sabotaged was he came up with a beautiful machine, a defense mechanism that every single country on our planet would have access to this one defense mechanism. And what that would mean was there could be no land, no sea, no air attack on any single country. What happened? Some idiot comes along, takes the information, takes the technology, calls it the death gamma ray gun. And Tesla's like, I do not want to be remembered for this. This is not why I did this. You know, so if people want to blame anyone, you blame your governments, you blame the families that run the governments. And the other thing is, you know, we think we know who all the monsters are. We name their names. We say the big guys, the monopolizers. There are many that we do name who are absolutely evil, beyond evil, soulless, heartless, whatevers. But some of them, you'll never know who they are. It could be me. It could be you. That's what I'm saying. That's why we got to stop choosing sides, jumping in people's games, and individuals come into self now. Listen to the information and figure out for you, how does that resonate? What do you feel? Right?
Exactly. and that's one of the reasons why we have a left and a right, which is why we have uh, political parties. It's to get us to pick a side.
Mhm.
And as long as we're picking a side, as long as we're thinking, well, there's one side and then the other, we're never in the middle. We're never in the middle. And the middle is where we all need to be, because if we were all in the middle, the people would have the power.
Yes.
They couldn't drag us to one side or the other, and
Right.
they would have no power. We would have all the power. And I think a lot of what's happening right now, the exposure of the rhinos, the exposure of the woke, the exposure of the left, and all these other horrible agendas to enslave, and just the whole thing with all the kids that's going on. That was all part of the program of keeping humanity divided. But I think a lot of people have begun to clearly see that this is a manipulation. It's an obvious manipulation, because it appears that whether you're right or left, woke or not, they're two sides of the same coin.
Mhm.
It's what it looks like to a lot of people. And a lot of folks have never thought this way before. So this is extremely positive. What we do is we take the coin, flip it off into the lake, and there is no coin, there's just us. This is
Right.
what we want.
Yes.
You do it or not. If you cannot, see ya, hit the road. You know,
Right. Right. What would you say to people who are following people that put themselves on YouTube and claim that they are from the highest order in the universe and they must know that they too are from, let's call it the Ruby Order. You are from the Ruby Order and we have come and we are all going to have superpowers and you are part of this. And, and people are so desperate and some are so easily swayed and some of them just watch too much TV and don't do any inner work, which is also where we're trying to get people to go. So they don't follow or pick a leader or pick a guru. What would you say to people that follow people like that come, I'm from the commanding situation in the middle of the universe and I run the Ruby Order and you follow me? What would you say to the people that get hooked into that?
well, I don't know anything about the Ruby Order, but um, sometimes when you follow the masses, the M is silent.
Sir,
Okay,
yes, sir.
the M is
Sir, yes,
silent.
sir, yes, sir.
And, you know, if you're allowing someone to tell you what to do and where to go, and you're following them without discernment, then the first thing I would say is you have absolutely no idea who you are yourself. You have zero idea. And you're already in trouble. You're already in trouble if you do not know who you are. Because when you do things like this, when you follow this type of a program, and that's what it is, it's a program, it's an it's an operation, it's a cult. When you follow things like this, the ones that benefit the most are those at the very top, because they're feeding off of your energy. They are feeding off of your life work. They are feeding off of your resources. They don't have to do anything but tell you what they want you to do. And you being obedient, you give your energy away to them. What is the reciprocity? Where is the reciprocity in any of this? There should always be an equal exchange of energy.
Yes.
If there isn't, you're fucked. Okay. You just haven't realized it yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're heading into a crash, into a collapse, into a dark night of the soul, because at some point, you're going to realize, oh my God, what have I done? I've left my family, my friends. I've destroyed my life. I am nowhere near where I want it to be. And this clearly isn't what it was sold as. I'm trying to be general so that everybody can understand or attach some meaning to it.
You know, I think if we take a step back and we go back into the question was, you know, who are the good guys? Space Force, the Earth Alliance.
Yeah,
One of the things you mentioned, which is so important, and I'm so keen for everyone to understand this and then make up their own mind. If they can get their heads around the fact that we already have an off-planet military fleet of ships in space, they're already there, then there's no big need for a quantum jump in everyone's brain to accept the fact that we have ships flying around who are protecting our planet, and they are China, and China and Russia and France and everyone else is involved too. But the masses weren't told that. Well, we need the masses to know this is a reality.
right.
And now there's all the panic. UAPs, oh, be quiet and sit down, NASA. You're so embarrassing. And all those silly agencies writing down, ooh, come up with something, unidentified aerial phenomena. No, it's a UFO. It always has been, but now they're being identified. And you're just all shitting your pants because you kept lying, liar, liar, pants on fire, and now you're getting yours. So it's so important to narrow the bridge of distance where they're like, oh no, well these are aliens, and this is the Earth military. They're all in cahoots together, and they have been for hundreds of years. It's not very difficult once you start to know. Let's talk about HAARP, unless you want to go back a step on Solar Warden.
Let's just address a couple of things with that. What you said is absolutely true. The ships are there. We've been doing this. I mean, you know, we hear a lot about what the Nazis were doing, and you're seeing some videos of Admiral Byrd's conflict with these same Nazi ships in Antarctica and what they did to our Navy. Okay, now if the Nazis had this in the late 30s and 40s, you know, imagine where the technology is today.
Totally.
Okay, now a lot of people don't realize this, but military technology every year jumps 40 years compared to commercial technology. So what we have commercially, whether it's the newest high def television or, you know, blue black DVD player, any of that stuff, you know, even the quantum stuff that will be rolling out to us, it's 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We're just getting it now.
Mm-hmm.
These space programs, these black ops, these off-the-shelf programs, they're not using silicone to store information on their computers or anything. They're already using quantum technology. They're using water. They are storing information in water. Okay, they're not using sand anymore, silicon. But you know, that's what we are, and we think, wow, we're getting all this great stuff, and we're hundreds of years behind.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, why are we the last to know? Why have we not been told? Why is it that our labor, which helped create the resources to make these programs work and to do what they have already accomplished, why is it that the people of the planet have been given no gratitude, no thank you, no semblance of appreciation from these programs and these governments for creating the ability of the energy for this to happen? Nothing. In fact, what did they do? They left us out, complete, utter betrayal, and they tried to create a breakaway society of their own. That's what they did,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And they couldn't have done any of it without us. You know, those chickens are going to come home to roost for sure.
Yeah.
They are. And you can bet they've already had these conversations. Now, as far as the white hats, these are the people who have done and have tried to do the right thing all along. I think we might find out that many of them, the white hats, were the ones that were um, behind sci-fi movies, extraterrestrial movies, um, other types of sci-fi where we're talking about cloning and robots and AI. I think in a lot of ways we are going to find out that these were the people behind disclosing this information, because if it hadn't been in movies, or these tech papers weren't written and published with permission, we'd still be in the 40s, you know, consciously. So, do they have names? Do they have faces? Yes, they do. Do we know for a fact exactly who all of them are? No, because they have been involved in a war with very, very dark, satanic human beings and non-terrestrial entities.
That's right.
That were here and on the surface and underground, and they have had to tread water very carefully, very quietly, you know, operating in the shadows in order to gain a position so that when they moved, they could take down the dark forces as quickly as possible with the minimal amount of hurt and pain to humanity. And this has taken a great deal of time and effort. And they didn't do it alone. They had help. They had help from benevolent races. Some of those will be known as the Venetians. Some of those will be known as the Pleiadians, Tau Ceti, the Andromedans, the Syrians from A, maybe even some from B that flipped because they're sick and tired of the bullshit as well. It could also be that, members of the Anunnaki that were connected to Enki, yes, Enki, who were like coming forward and saying, you know what, we have got to help humanity here. And they came in and they started doing the right thing, giving intel, sharing information, sharing strategic information on how to operate around these dark forces. And so many other possibilities, multidimensional beings, dimensional information, downloads, the ability to create and manifest reality and information is limitless. It's absolutely limitless. Uh, Looking Glass technology, look at the insight that they gave both light and dark side. It gave them profound information. And it was, and what happened was, well, the dark side freaked out. They went into panic because they realized that this date they were done. So they scrambled to do everything they could to make sure it didn't happen, that they remained in power. Well, the other side, the white hats, they're like, hey, there's an opportunity here to be free, you know? So what they did was they encouraged the fear, they encouraged the dark side to put their plans in motion, because then they would expose themselves because they freaked, they got really nervous. So they started to press and press and press. Well, when you press, you make mistakes. When you hurry, you make mistakes. When you slow down, you always have a much more harmonious outcome. Well, that's not what they did. The white hats, on the other hand, did. They were able to allow these things to go, but for them and their operations, they were able to slow down time so they could see the steps the dark forces were taking. And as they were taking these steps and moving in a direction, the white hats would flank them and already be there. And we're talking about human Terrans, extraterrestrial beings, and dimensional physical personages as well, who can always be counted on to do the right thing, to always do the right thing. And there's many of us like that here as well. It's one of our innate abilities for the most part of every human being. We know the difference between right and wrong. We do. It's what you choose.
Mhm.
But uh, any parent or most parents, they know exactly what to do. They will do the right thing to help and protect their families and their children. Uh, we know what to do, and there's more of us than them. It's just that we have been stripped of any power, stripped of any authority, stripped of any importance. They just did shit, the dark side, and ignored us completely as if we did not matter. And they ran their programs. And now they're being exposed. Now they have been exposed. And, I know what your question was. Who are they? This isn't fully over yet. So
Mhm.
I've given you some information, at least the off-worlders, but the operative human beings that are here doing the work globally, it's not time to name names. It's simply not. Maybe at one point they some of them will show themselves, and they will begin to roll out the history of their programs and how they got started. Again, there've been white hats around forever, uh, but I think here in the United States, it really became a paramount, a critical issue with the assassination of John Kennedy, because they did it in broad daylight.
Mhm.
All of the departments and governments were part of it. They had to be, even the Secret Service. They called his Secret Service detail away from his car as he made the turn at Dallas, you know, um, into Daly Plaza. You can see the video. They withdrew his Secret Service detail.
Yeah.
They had to be involved,
Mhm.
So everybody was involved, and the white hats were like, "Damn, damn, we have got to do this," and they did it, and you know, maybe 25 years from now, 30 years from now, that information will be public, but it isn't going to be public yet because we're not done. There are still minions to mop up.
Minions, and there's some of them are the most dangerous. They honestly believe that the powers they serve are going to take care of them at the end of all of this. It's like promising the 33 virgins or whatever, some groups are told you'll have
Yeah.
this, they don't realize that the darkness doesn't care. They will allow people to do evil and do bad things, and then when they come back, there'll be nothing for them. There'll be nothing for them.
Yeah. Well, power is always concentrated at the top, and everything else is a resource. Now, I've talked about this for 30 plus years, and I know that there are others who have done this too. But the Orion model is that once they've achieved their goal, all of the middle management people, they're the first to go,
Mhm.
because they were the ones that were interacting and implementing the plan against humanity. So they take them out right off the bat. And then they take out the next layer of upper management as well, so that there is no one left to tell the story,
That's
how
right.
it happened,
That's
because they're
right.
all gone. And if you want to get rid of history, that's how you do it. Anyone who knows, you just take them out, and they're gone, and there's no one left to tell the story. So these guys would have all been dead anyway. But now they're really screwed, because they've done all these things. They've committed these crimes. They've done these horrific things against humanity. They've committed treason against humanity and their own countries and their own nations. And they no longer have a chain of command, because that's been removed. They're on their own. And all they can do is run this program, because there's no more deals. They're not going to get a deal. So it's over for them, no
Yes.
matter what. So they're going to play this out, and that's what's happening. And the White Hats, the alliance, the Earth Alliance, is doing everything that it can to minimize the damage to humanity. and they've done very, very well
Mhm.
considering the technology that the dark side has had. They've
Yes.
done very, very well. Nuclear weapons, sonic weapons, neutron weapons, lasers, poison chemicals, poison gases, viruses. They've had all these things that they've tried to use, but it's been stomped down. It's never been able to totally go out of control and create mass chaos. And that's because the alliance has been all over this.
Mhm.
And I get it that most people have no idea. I get that. But one day they will.
Yeah.
One day they will.
Yeah.
And they and everybody will become extremely passionate about bringing humanity, all of humanity, to the fold, to bring us all together and to act like a human race.
Mhm.
you know we haven't had any real models of that down here on the surface, because we've had psychopaths and just horrible
Yeah, and
beings.
so many opportunities for people to lead the way in terms of giving real information, but then they'll throw their own agenda on something, and that has happened 50 million times. So there are so many humans you just cannot trust. They just have this innate need to be all powerful, all everything, and that doesn't work. I could give so many examples here. Just for people watching this, I know so many people are on the journey. They're coming to the information all of the time. If they want their own proof of physical craft that the military is fully aware of, look up Solar Warden, our military fleet on this planet just above Earth's atmosphere here, just in geostationary orbit. Also look up Operation High Jump, which is what Alex was alluding to, William Byrd's Operation High Jump in the Antarctic, where the Nazis from Project Paperclip were given way too much time underground in Antarctica. They perfected their anti-gravity machinery, and they came up, and the Americans got a bit of a beating. And so the craft that flew over the White House, that famous photograph, they are actually Nazis. They are not aliens. These are things that we need to collapse in together and be okay with bringing the collapse in together. What it does, it also collapses the human and the human's belief system, which is something that we all have to go through. So Solar Warden, Operation High Jump, Paperclip, Operation Paperclip, if you want to look at that before. And now moving on, let's look at the technology of HAARP, High Frequency Aerial Auric Research Program, HAARP, everybody. Sir Alex Collier, would you give us a little synopsis, please, of what you know about the technology, the military government technology called HAARP, HAARP?
I think the original concept came from Nikola Tesla in order to create a shield around the Earth of asteroids, meteors, etc. I think it became a super priority um, after several crashes in New Mexico, several crashes in South America, and several crashes in Africa that happened as well. When they realized what the technology was and how advanced they were, and their experiences with some of these extraterrestrials, some reptilians, some gray, some were hybrid humans, and their attitude towards us that we were just ants to them. I think what happened was these programs got a lot of very serious attention because the first response was, okay, well, we need to protect the Earth. The problem is that when you take programs like this that are off budget, black ops, and no one knows what's going on, and you classify it in such a way that not even the president of the United States or his administration knows anything about it. What happens is those who write the checks end up calling the shots. And we see this over and over and over again. And what happened was, who had the checks? Who had the money to fund all these programs under the table? It was the central banking system, because they could print money at will, because it had no backing. It was literally paper with pictures on it. And they began to dictate what these programs were going to do. And they started to dictate, well, let's see what it can do. Can it change weather? Can it do this? Can it create earthquakes? And they began to use this against their enemies, and or to create enemies, or to create world wars, which then some of their other companies that are the military industrial complex could then supply the weapons to both sides, and they could make all this money. And humanity is just wailing against each other, not realizing that we're all totally being played. And what are we doing? We are killing our best and our brightest and our youngest in wars that was nothing but a game to the higher ups. This has gone on over and over and over again for 1,000 years, although HAARP hasn't been here for 1,000 years. But that's what's been going on. And it's my understanding that there's at least 8 HAARPs on the planet, on the surface. And I understand the original premise, but unfortunately, with no genuine oversight and the ability to print money at will, these things go black, they go dark.
Yeah.
And they're corrupted, and they totally get corrupted. And the consciousness evolving these things is that they start creating all these weapons in a state of fear, and they sell it to us as, well, this is going to keep us safe, creating these weapons of mass destruction. They're going to keep us safe. But the only problem with that is that they eventually use them because they want to see what they'll do. And what it does is it sucks the life force out of all of humanity, because we focus on these weapons of war and the ability to protect ourselves in a state of fear. And fear always has to feed. Okay, it doesn't produce its own energy, its own frequency. It has to feed off of something else. Okay, because fear doesn't generate love in any way. It just doesn't.
Yeah. So it keeps everybody in a dense environment, and it keeps them in the fearful place, and they're being siphoned. Their energy is going to feed the beast that doesn't care about them.
And the consciousness gets lower and lower and lower, to the point where it just collapses. And as the A's have said, there are ruins of incredible civilizations throughout our galaxy that are gone. They're no longer here because they lost their original intent. And this model that we've been going through is the same model that caused these other civilizations to cease to exist, because they lost their original intent and consciously imploded on themselves. And then they took themselves out. They were in so much pain, so much fear, all they wanted to do was leave. Just die, just go away. They didn't even want to live that reality anymore. And once you're aware of that, you simply don't make those choices anymore. You don't want to go there. We've been very fortunate that we've had some intervention, and we stopped that slide. I mean, we have enough nuclear weapons right now to destroy the entire solar system. Does that make sense to anybody? Does that make sense to anybody? No, of course not.
Well, it gives me comfort knowing that our benevolent brothers and sisters of other races that, of course, exist in our solar system are never going to stand for that. And if they can fly quite easily into our atmosphere, then you better believe that they have better technology than we do. Anything that happens here harms out there. I want to go back to HAARP for a second. My understanding, long-term, I would say education, but the way that I've come to understand HAARP high frequency aerial auroric research program. If you look it up online, people, HAARP, you will see it is not hidden. It is right there in your face. It's very difficult for some people to even imagine the concept of hundreds of thousands of miles of windmills in the middle of the ocean where tides turn, for example, meaning that HAARP is capable of literally stopping the rains going to India or stopping Serbia receiving its snow. Now, you have to learn to think bigger. This technology is beyond our thinking because we've never been exposed to it. So it seems like a sci-fi movie fantasy to us. But my understanding of HAARP has the absolute capability of doing this. Some of the most horrific weather turbulations that have been happening in the last few years are at some key points directly coming from our HAARP weather manipulation systems. And that is an absolute fact and truth that has been confirmed by militaries and governments on your planet. What say you to that, Alex?
Well, HAARP can be used for good or for evil.
Yes.
It could create rain in the Sahara Desert. It could create rain in the Mojave Desert and turn it into an oasis. It can create a torrential downpour near Las Vegas, and in 3 or 4 days they could probably refill Lake Mead. They have the ability to do these things, to turn things around, to modify the climate so that everywhere has clean water, everything has moisture. The farmers have all the water they need for their crops so that those crops grow and mature, and we all have good, fresh food, healthy food on our plates. There are so many things that it can be used for that's positive. But it's like any other sword, it has two edges to it. And what it comes down to is the consciousness that's running it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with a car. You're either responsible with a car or you get drunk and you do something really stupid and you hit the pedal to the metal and you use it as a weapon. Any piece of technology requires responsibility.
It really does.
And when you have tech like this and there is no accountability, invariably it goes dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It does.
And again, no, if the keys are not with the people who can be trusted to put humanity first, which is their role, they've got one job, the people in charge, the governments, for example, their one job is to take care of humanity, not one cold, not one hungry, and not one homeless person. And if you Muppets out there around the world, all of you governments, bar none, if you've got hungry, cold, homeless people, you're not doing a very good job. You need to pop along and let people that care about humanity come along and run things for you, show you how to do it, because you have all failed. Deal with it. These are the things that we need to be saying. We can't be scared anymore. Oh, don't say that. Why not? People aren't stepping into their power, thinking for themselves enough, Alex, and it's time.
And you're absolutely right. Let's just take Washington, D.C. as an example. All of these politicians, instead of spending all their time in D.C., they need to be home in their towns so that they can work and talk and be amongst their constituencies, their people, to know what their needs are. If they're sequestered in Washington, D.C., they become part of a bubble, and that bubble is not connected to reality in any way, shape, or form. My dad used to have a saying that the people that go to Washington, D.C., they become idiots. They just become idiots because they put something in the water, and they just forget the fact that they're human beings,
right,
and that they have a responsibility to take care of people,
to serve the people. That's
and
your job. They're servants.
Yes, and they go into this bubble and they pass laws that are just like lunacy. For example, California. California's just introduced a bill to ban the Bible in California. I mean, where are you coming from with this shit? You know, they've legalized pedophilia over age 12. Where
That
are they coming from with this
Yeah,
shit?
this is
You
why it is.
know?
Yeah, and the people that don't know, oh God, this is a whole other subject. I wanted to go into hemp batteries, hemp, how amazing and miraculous hemp
We can
is.
get there. I'm not limited to an hour.
All right, well, no, we have a special guest waiting in the wings that wants to join us. But heart for people, putting 9/11 back on the table for discussion, that has to happen, because if you learn from your history, you can then take, accountability in your present. All the signs are there. Yeah, there's so much. Gosh, we just, and rainbow portals and portal energy, there's so much to discuss here. What would you like to say regarding educating people to look at the governors, senators, people that put themselves in charge? How can the people take some action towards their communities to help support them, so we get rid of pedophilic laws, for example, that have been slowly slinking in over the last 3 years in particular?
Politics has become corporatized. Governments have become corporatized. In fact, after 1871, they literally are corporations. Okay. They have moved towards the money. Now, the states were given the 10th Amendment the ability to remain separate and independent, but they were always chasing the money. And Rothschild said it best, I think in 1791 or 1798. He said, I care not who makes the laws, but if you give me the ability to create the money, I will be in control. I will control the nation. And that's exactly what's happened. The votes have been stolen. You're now being told you have no right to raise your children, to be involved in your children's education. You have no right to look at the school curriculum. You have no right to talk to your children about transgenderism and children wanting to move over, but their teachers do, but you as the parent don't. All of this is just a movement of condemnation of humanity by a very small group of beings and people
Very small group.
who have decided that they're God.
Mm-hmm.
They're God. You also have this in politics, especially locally. Now, if you can change, let's say you're in Colorado, and if we were to start changing all of our local politics here, the governor's office would collapse because it would have absolutely no support. Mm-hmm. Because all of their programs and their agendas come to fruition because of our tax dollars. If we withhold that and say, no, we're not doing that, that agenda collapses on itself. And then he's gone or she's gone. They're gone. Okay. They're fired, they're terminated, they're recalled. Judges that pass some of these laws, they're recalled. But it has to start locally. And if you can change the politics in Colorado, then you can change the politics in New Mexico, Texas, Arizona. Arizona's already going through that right now. Mm-hmm. Utah, Wyoming, I don't ever see Wyoming going woke. I just don't see that happening, because they'll never find your body. But if you do it locally and everybody participates, and you see, that's the key. Everyone has to participate. There can no longer be political politicians. If this shit show hasn't shown anything, it has shown that political politicians only care about themselves.
100%. 100%.
So there has to be term limits. And what that means is that every day mom and dad are going to have to not only get involved, but you're going to have to run for office. You're going to have to participate. You're going to have to get on your school boards. You're just going to have to do it. And grandmas and grandpas, you know, you probably have a lot of time on your hands. You could be running some of these school boards.
That's right.
You know,
That's
because
right.
you know, we grew up in an era where we learned how to read. We knew to read. We weren't burning books. You know, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have any of this distractions. Kids learned math, history, real history, geology, ethics. We learned all those things in school, you know, and today it's just like, you know, and I have five, and they, you know, they say things to me, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Where did you learn that? You know, and it is so left field that, you know, I immediately go into the deprogram mode. You know, yeah, we're gonna have lunch tomorrow, and we're gonna talk some more about this. You know, and their eyes open up. Oh God, Dad's gonna talk to me. You know, but I mean, that's what it takes. You know, that's what it takes. And you know, a lot of this generation, they're entitled. They think they're entitled, and they're not. Hard work, dedication, building dreams, focusing on a dream, focusing on what you want, focusing on making yourself better and knowing what that means, and wanting to take responsibility for yourself and not blame the school or the government or Trump or any of that
Yeah.
rubbish.
Yeah.
You know, it's everywhere. And
Yeah.
they set us up for the collapse.
Right.
They
Yeah.
totally set us up for the collapse.
And it's all about divide us, make us fight against each other, never ever look up here because we've been
Yeah.
programmed not to.
And they're just sitting back drinking,
Yeah.
you
Blood.
know, Chardonnay and, you know, and 150-year-old champagne. And they're just like, wow, isn't this great? You
And they
know,
love it. They know exactly how to pull the trigger and flick us off, and off we go, all fighting. It's embarrassing how pathetic we are as individual humans. I hold my hand up to that too. You know,
well,
seriously.
we're not necessarily, I don't know that I would say pathetic.
Instead.
Naive,
Mm-hmm.
incredibly naive, incredibly naive. You know, I wish there was a bigger word that I could use for that. But just naive. I mean, we have no idea how we've been played. And you know, that's because the media and everybody else has been a part of this. They reinforced all the messages to disempower us.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you hear it all the time, all the time, all the time, directly and subtly. And eventually, this is a part of you that believes it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I'm so grateful we have people like you in particular with a strong voice and a strong presence. And we also have a special guest today who would like to come on and join us. Shall
Is
we
she
welcome?
passionate? Is she passionate?
She's very passionate. She's very, very passionate. Ladies and jelly beans, we would love to bring our beautiful friend in here. And we will see in a moment as she comes through. It is
Oh,
Danan.
there she
Yeah.
is.
Wait a minute. I have problem with my camera on my green screen.
Okay,
Let's
that's
see
all right.
what's happening. Here we go.
Ah, now we've suddenly created and manifested somewhat of a spaceship. How lovely.
Here we go.
Elena,
I'm
how are
ready.
you doing?
Hello, Your Grace. How are you?
Yeah, how are you?
We're
Nice
good.
to see you.
Thank you. It's
Great,
nice to be
Tara.
seen.
So, Alex, do you want to do a recap so we can let Elena know what we've been talking about?
Uh,
No,
we've
it's
talked about
fine.
HARP. We've talked about ethics. We've talked about generational knowledge or lack thereof. We've talked about humanity's manipulation, and we've talked about civilizations that no longer exist because they lost their original intent, and they were forced into such a narrow band of existence that they just decided to implode because they were in so much pain, and they would rather not be alive than to continue to live like that. We've talked about regressive structures. We've talked about solar warden. We've talked about Space Force. We talked about the Nazis and technology and how it's been suppressed and hidden from us. We've talked about the dark money and the banking system, how it has been able to take over and control all of the greatest achievements humanity has had, and kept it away from humanity at the same time, and then turned around and used it against us. So we've covered a lot of ground, I think. And of course,
Yeah.
Dani is a fabulous interviewer and host. So she kept prodding with the cow poker to get people into issues.
She's extraordinary.
Well, thank you, guys. I know we all have a role that we're very much clear on. Alex, one of the things that I am so grateful for a couple of years ago in particular was you proving to me firsthand, then immediately backed up by Elena, that there's never going to be one group of off-planet brothers or sisters who are going to monopolize anyone else on this planet ever again. And we had a situation within our tight ranks of a person who'd started out really good and then were taken over. And I remember you calling me, Alex, and saying there's a problem. The Pleiadians are watching the Sirians, but the Andromedans are watching the Pleiadians. And I was like, wow, this is all real. Like, this is true. I have so much confidence now knowing that it will never be allowed to happen on our planet again, and it was so beautiful. Go ahead.
Me? Oh no, Alex.
Alex was going to say something.
Oh, okay, yeah, everything moves slower now. When you have one perspective, you have humanity, and then you have a more advanced extraterrestrial mentoring nation, star nation. They come and they present a perspective based on their own experiences. And that's always how it is. And it would happen with anybody. But what sometimes lacks is balance. Because they present things with just their own perspective based on their own experience, that doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong, but over a period of time, we adapt to their philosophical beliefs as opposed to taking the knowledge and building our own and creating our own. That's why it's always important to have other perspectives here so that humanity can have a different perspective and can take pieces, what they feel they need, in order to create a compendium, a blend of the best that would suit their specific needs and their own specific intentions for their future. And what that does is it creates balance. And when anything is out of balance, it becomes dysfunctional. At some point, it will become dysfunctional. It'll begin to warp. The energy will get out of balance and out of place. And if it isn't corrected, there are always consequences to that. So yes, this is why, there is now a Terran alliance, and there will be races that are here now that may leave and others will come in and fill that place, in order that, over the next, 150 years, humanity will be exposed to many different perspectives so that future generations will have this tremendous base of knowledge, and humanity will be able to make its own decisions, as to what it is, what it wants, and where it wants to go, and how it wants to be represented, and to project itself out to the rest of the galaxy. Because we're naive. We have been kept in this little tiny bubble, and we're very, very naive. We're not stupid. We're not stupid. And that's, I don't mean that in any way. We can take any piece of technology and recreate it. But we can also abuse it because we don't really understand the consequences of what happens when you use it, such as a nuclear weapon. You know, we were blowing those things off, having no idea they were cracking holes in time and other dimensions, you know, really pissing other people off, other star races. We just didn't know until they showed up in force. And they're like, whoa, 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 you know, and yet the French, the English, even the Americans continued to light them off a little bit for a little bit, few years later. I guess they didn't believe it or they were testing it or whatever, you know, and that's when the big guns started coming in and everything started to change. But, you know, we had already been building advanced technology, reverse engineering, alien vehicles, and we were misbehaving because those who were mentoring us, the Orion group, the reptilians, the Greys, they have, you know, they don't have any scruples. So they were just doing their thing and we were acting just like they were, thinking that's the way it's going to be, you know, and it's not. It's not. We didn't have enough exposure to the benevolent side of that equation. And once we did, it was very obvious we were in trouble. It became very obvious we were in trouble. And decisions had to be made. And fortunately, you know, we had hiding in the wings the White Hats or the Alliance, who then were like, okay, here's our opportunity to begin the process of shutting this down, shutting this type of behavior down, shutting this abuse of technology, the slaving, the trafficking of humans off world, all of these things that were going on. And, you know, it's taken a very long time, decades and decades, to get it to this place where, okay, we can now start showing it to humanity. And I don't know if it's 30, 40, 50% of humanity whose eyes are fully open now and see it. But it's enough to keep the momentum going. You know, everybody's going to know at this point. They can't shut it down. So, you know, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years, at that, whatever, there's going to be a moment where we're all going to be awake. And they're doing their best to wake us up on a sooner timeline than later. And it's working, and it's working. At least that's how I see it, and that's how it's been expressed to me.
I always get so crazy frustrated hearing 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I'm like, no, now, because there are more people flipping now. So like you say, we don't want people to go, oh God, it's happening in 20 years, because there's a sense of hopelessness and helplessness that comes over them. If they do their own inner work now, they're going to help everybody else proceed at a much faster rate. And that's our opportunity. Elena, I love that we connected earlier today and that you gave me a one-to-one update on current stat, as Alex would call it. Could you please share what you are able to with what is happening with the Galactic Federation of Worlds? And just in case anyone's watching this that doesn't know who you are, could you please tell us who you are?
Well, well,
Who doesn't know?
people, some people. Oh, well, I'm how to say, I'm a pain in the hole for the CIA. I'm a former archaeologist, druidess, shaman, and ET contactee since childhood, just as Alex, and emissary for the Galactic Federation of Worlds officially, but I also pass on messages from other extraterrestrial groups who are the Council of Five and the Intergalactic Confederation. Well, not the whole Intergalactic Confederation, just a little group of them who is in our star system, just this group. And also, yeah, and that's a lot of people, but I manage. So that's what I do. And what's new? the most main important thing that I can report is, you know, the Council of Five. So the Council of Five is a very ancient organization that was existing already during the Orion Wars. They were a high council in the Orion zone, and they were like kind of bit of, you know, you can compare that to the Jedi Council there. And they were 9 at the time. There were nine cultures, 9 different cultures who were not all from the Orion zone, but they were based there on Al-Nilam, central star of the Orion zone. The Orion Wars happened. The council reduced to 5 cultures for different reasons. And so now that the Orion zone is free from the Nebu hive, the queen has been eradicated. The hive, the Nebu hive, the super hive, which was a compound of many different planetary hives, has collapsed. So the Nebu don't exist anymore as an empire, as an entity. All the Greys have gone back to their planetary hives, so nature is taking back its balance. So then the Orion Council of Five is in charge now again of the Orion zone, the whole Orion zone. So it's a lot of work, and the Galactic Federation is very busy there. The Galactic Alliance, everyone is trying to hold the pieces together, because when a big chunk of energy has just collapsed, well, you need to recompose the puzzles to the natural balance, and that takes time and skills, because you have all these little groups who wants to take over. It's like when you decapitate the godfather of the mafia. Well, all the little thugs try to get in the place, and it's mayhem. So to avoid the mayhem, there's a lot of work there. There's a lot of work. So the Council of Five, there's an ancient culture that who left them at the time of the Orion Wars, because they couldn't anymore. They were like, just can't deal with that anymore. It's too much. They're coming back. So the Council of Five may soon be the Council of Six. And so I didn't know until, well, today, not very far from now, who they were, see which one it is. And it's the El-Manuk, the actual founders of the Council of Nine at the time. They are from Gliese, I don't remember, 832, I think, in Grus constellation. But they came back, and it's not official yet. They're talking about it, they're considering it. So that was what was new. I could tell today. I don't know, Alex, have you heard about what the big activity in the Orion zone, I suppose?
Are you frozen, Alex?
Yeah, I think it's frozen.
No, I'm sorry. No, I haven't heard anything today.
Okay. So it's just because, you know, Anax is one of my my contactees in the Council of Five, so I could get this news today. So it was cool.
Oh, that's lovely. Can you tell us what the El-Manuk look like, please?
They are very tall, very, very, very thin, very skinny. You could say they look like they have skin on bones. They have a big elongated skull, very long face as well, very emaciated. They are a species on their own. That's very, very tall, maybe 8 feet tall. Yeah.
So you say that they're the ones who came together with 8 other races, themselves being the 9th, and they founded a collection of beings that exist in our solar system, but they themselves felt it prudent for them to leave, and then it became the Council of Five. Can you tell us why they left and why they would consider coming back?
Well, there was certain points to which they could fight the Nebu, and you know, the Nebu won the Orion Wars. So everybody was getting killed, decimated, and fleeing. And at the end, I mean, the Black League really took a bad hit. And the Council of Nine, just some cultures were very, some cultures were not even in originally from Orion Zone, and they were totally getting hammered. So the Almanuk were really getting a hit, and so they withdrew from the council. They say, okay, we can't, we're going to be exterminated. It's not wise. That's it. We admit the defeat, but we will do something to reverse it in a different way. That's when the envoy programs were created. Some cultures were nearly eradicated to a certain point, and some others. So after the Orion Wars, some cultures said, because the Council of Five wanted to not yet five, they were a little bit more, to help outside of the Orion Zone. They want to extend the help, and some cultures are not. That's crazy. We can't do that. That's enough. We're leaving. So at the end, only 5 cultures left remained. Sorry, and they say, okay, we're keeping on doing it, and they're still there.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you. It's exciting to get such a nice, fresh update from both of you. I wanted to mention the fact that you just said the name Black League, Elena. I know this is something that you and Alex Collier have a lot of understanding, past life experience, current day experience. Now, as people are coming into the awareness of themselves being human, starseed, beautiful beings that have come back to be at this time. And if we lose people, that's all right, because they're the ones in the rearview mirror now. We're doing our best to bring information for people to open their minds to other possibilities other than what they've been trained in. I know the Black League information is very important to many, many people, and it has been truly their awakening of their own experience as a starseed. Alex, can I come to you first? Would you give us your best advice and teaching on what you know the Black League to truly be and have been?
Well, they were white hats. They were a group of patriots, rebels who simply were not going to allow the Orion Empire to just decimate everything, just allow them to walk in and decimate and enslave different star systems. They just weren't going to do it. So what they did was they formed a coalition, a band of different groups. Some of them were just simply survivors of other star nations that had already been taken over. They were able to get away. And what they did was they would band together and they would hide in the shadows. They would build bases in asteroids or old moons. And they specialized in areas where they would remain in the dark so that Orion technology would not pick it up. They wouldn't see heat signatures or anything like that. So they would remain hidden. And then what they would do is they would attack from the rear, and they would cause some of the troop movements of the Orion Empire, for lack of a better word, to turn around and chase them in another direction. What this would do is this would allow the star nations that were being targeted, as many of them as possible, to escape to other star nations, to other star systems, so that they could get away and they would not be enslaved. It's the equivalent of the Cheyenne dog soldiers here in the United States, where the Apaches, when the cavalry was coming in to an area, they would cause the cavalry to engage, and then they would lead them in a different direction, which would allow the women and children and the elderly to move to another area or to merge with a much larger tribe that was not at the time being threatened. That's what it was. And it was all just simply about survival. And whenever they could do something, they would use the Orion equipment that they could capture, and they would turn around and use it against the Orion fleet. It was whatever we can do, you know. A lot of technology that the benevolent star nations had at that particular time came from them having to be ingenious and very creative in using different technology for different purposes. You know, the Orions used it for this, but the Black League was able to convert it to use for multiple uses. And you know, a lot of things came out of that that benefited so many different star nations. But it was really about, it was about saving people. It was about saving a species from enslavement, annihilation. You know, if you were openly rebellious against the Orion Empire, they would just take you out. They would just genocide an entire planet and not think of another thing about it. You know, and now that planet is behind their flank. You know, it's now, you know, in their territory, and they would just keep moving, and they would just take over. And because it was all about power, and it was all about feeding their machine, feeding their energy. They were feeding off everybody else, whether it was material, spiritual, physical. They were just literally feeding off of everything.
Who is they? For those that don't know, who is they?
Well, it was all the other star nations. It was all the small collective of individual colonies or planetary star nations that had survived the Lyran Wars. Okay, when the Lyran Wars came, everybody had to go, and they just took off. They modified asteroids, and they used them as starships because they didn't have the time to build anything. So they hollowed them out, created an environment on the inside, and they put propulsion on the surface, and they just took off. And they grew food inside their ships, you know, and they had to do everything on the fly. They were literally creating technology as they were escaping in order that they could survive. It's a remarkable story. And they just went everywhere, you know, and they just kept going. And many of them were fortunate to meet other star nations that were already out there that they themselves didn't know much about, who offered to help. And they gave them places to live, and they helped them find planets where their civilizations could survive. You know, I mean, it's a story of humanity, of a humanitarian effort in our galaxy to allow beings to live in peace. And then, you know, once things calm down, and you know, I don't know the full story about the draconian Lyran issue, how it became resolved, and then out of that grew the Orion group. I don't have those pieces of the history, but that's basically what basically that's what happened. And the Black League was extremely instrumental in buying everybody the time they needed. Yes, they got their ass kicked, but it was for a higher purpose. And anyone that was part of that knew that. They knew the odds were not good in your favor. But you also knew that on those ships that were escaping were your own children, were your own parents, was your life, the love of your life, et cetera, et cetera. So you were going to do it anyway, you know, to give them every opportunity to survive. The Black League is about heroism. It was absolutely about heroism. And you know, in some places in the universe, it's probably happening again, sadly.
Can I ask you, Alex, you know for a fact, for many different reasons and proofs that you've proven over this lifetime that you're in as a human on this planet, what did you look like when you were in the Black League?
I was almost 8 feet tall. I was very broad, very muscular. Um, I had a very structured cranium. Um, my skin color was a light purple. I don't know specifically where I was from. Uh, but when I was 8 and I was first taken on board, and those monitors came out of the wall, and I was on that table, and that's when I first met Morine and Faceus. That was one of the images that they showed me.
Oh,
I saw the images, and I registered emotionally to it, but it wasn't until years later. I think, roughly about 16 when they began to show me each one of those lifetimes specifically and give me information and knowledge. Uh, I asked what my name was, and they couldn't exactly tell me because that was a language that's no longer spoken.
right.
It's lost to history. But there were very, very few survivors, just several thousands of survivors of my particular race at that time. And there were a bunch of us that were participating in doing this work because it was the right thing to do. You know, we were gone anyway. You know, even if we were enslaved, what they did was they kept the women and the children and raised them and indoctrinated them into their philosophies. And if they couldn't use the men for labor or for slave work, and that they didn't trust us to behave, they just killed you. You know, so they didn't have to be bothered with it. And that's just what the Orion Empire was. It was very matter of fact. It was almost operating in an AI consciousness at that point. Although I don't necessarily believe they had it then, it was operating that. There was absolutely no compassion whatsoever. It was very narcissistic and schizophrenic. Their movements, the way they moved, the way they approached, the way they dominated, the way they eliminated whatever it was that was in their way. In other words, there were no negotiations. And even if there were negotiations, there was no trusting anything they said, you know, because all they would do is come back behind you and take it anyway, you know.
Do you remember what your position was as you see yourself as this giant 8 foot?
You know, I don't know that we had ranks. It was just, you know, who was willing to do what was necessary. You know, in those situations, it's really not about rank. It's about who's brave enough to do this now. Who's going to do this? What will you do? And, you know, at that point, all of us there was no getting out of it once you started. There was no getting out of it because, again, you know, your loved ones were on those ships that were escaping. And our job was to stop or distract the Orion fleets or ships long enough so that they could get away and hopefully find someplace to be safe. So that's what you did. And we did horrible things. You know, we did absolutely horrible things to buy our loved ones time, knowing that we were going to get the same treatment anyway. You know, we were all dead anyway. You know, and that's war. That's war. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing.
Do you recognize anyone? And if I need to
I
edit
have.
this out,
Yes, I have in this
edit this.
lifetime. I've recognized 3 specific people. One was Rick Johnston. He passed away last year. John Robinson, he passed away 2 years ago. And John Graney, who was my closest friend, he passed away 3 years ago. So yeah, you meet them and you know, and you just know. And sometimes when you're in their space, you'll get pictures, you'll get like it's like a very fast video clip. You're like, wow, where'd that come from?
Mm.
It's really, really interesting. And a lot of times when I would travel out of my body at night, they'd be there, and we'd all go together someplace, or we'd go to a class, or we would actually, there were several where we were all together and we were being trained, you know, for a mission. But their physicalities started to shut down, and then I got sick. So it's been interesting. It's almost as if there was this effort to take us out,
Mhm. Yeah, it's fascinating. Really is. Thank you, darling. It's so important to have this information out there so others, as they're awakening, can also find their own cellular resonance with this.
Well, everybody just has to remember you're a multidimensional being. You are not limited or stuck on Earth in any way, shape, or form. And if you can grasp that and embrace that, then you open up all the possibilities of who you were in the past and who you are in the future, because it's all happening simultaneously.
Mhm.
you know
Yeah, yeah. Elena, can I come to you? Can you share with us your memories and experiences and knowledge of the Black League, please?
Oh, wow. It's very emotional memories because, my personal memory of the Black League. My father was in the Council of Five and my mother was human. And I was training young people, motivating them and gathering people to join the Black League. I don't remember exactly what the training was, but I remember teaching them about the spiritual arts, the arts of consciousness involved in leading your action by consciousness and utilizing the universal energy to fight with. That was my role, and also gathering people. I was there when, as Alec explained, there were several groups of rebels fighting for their life, the life of their cultures and their loved one, exactly. And there wasn't really an organization, and the Council of Five tried to organize everyone. There was a leader, I remember, who gathered, a leader of the Black League. He became like a leader, a general of the Black League, and he managed to gather everyone, all the little groups in one. And the Nebu wanted him. They wanted him dead. They could never find him. And until the end, he was fighting and organizing everyone. And as a lesson, because they couldn't find him, they blew up his world. And I saw that. And that was the most horrible thing I've ever witnessed in all my lives. The consciousness of a planet, the consciousness of all life forms on it, animals, plants, the beauty, the oceans, the vegetations, everything, the living beings. This planet had been really evacuated because we had received a leak that this planet was targeted. So everyone escaped, but many died. Not everyone had the time to escape. And escape how? There's not enough ship for everyone. So, but this incident, this horrible thing, instead of hitting the Black League as a lesson, enforced everyone and fired everyone. That was the kickstart for the next level. And everyone united, despite their differences of opinion on how to do stuff. They said, okay, they all united. So I remember that episode, and it was quite They are monsters. They were monsters. Monsters. Yeah, no negotiations, absolutely. No empathy. They do not feel. They do not feel.
They being greys and reptilians in particular?
There were reptilians, but mainly greys. The Eban from Betelgeuse were leading the Betelgeuse and Rigel, but mostly Betelgeuse, leading everyone. Rigel was where all the military fleets and forces and weapons were. Betelgeuse was the central power, and the hive in the Orion Nebula was just the sole center for everyone. So Betelgeuse was the strategic point. Yeah, I remember that.
I would just like to add to that, you know, some people say, well, how could you blow up a planet? Well, we had a planet blown up in our own solar system. That's where the asteroid belt is.
Yeah.
That's what's left of one that was blown up during issues here in our own solar system. You know, the asteroid belt is what's left of it. And parts of it are also on the outside of our solar system. You know, parts of that same planet. They call it Moldek. That's what these Anunnaki called it, and that's what they taught the Sumerians about that. So, you know, some of that history is very close to us, even as we, you know, speak, and most people are waking up. This solar system has seen that kind of warfare and destruction.
A question for both of you. In regards to Maldek being a planet that was blown up, there is a lot of thinking that the Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot, Abominable Snowman, there are many different names for this being, there is an element of Sasquatch that came from Maldek. Can either of you confirm, deny?
I can confirm that's an information I have as well. These people, they were not from Maldek, but they were there as a very ancient colony. And so many of them managed to go to Mars, but Mars was as well devastated by the event. I don't know if you just look at the Valley Marinaris on Mars. That's the big scar of the half of the planet. Maldek just passing through the explosion. So Mars was ripped from its atmosphere, most of its atmosphere at the time it was, but they managed to get a colony there, but most of them escaped to Earth, the next really livable planet. That's the few I know.
Atmospherically, it wasn't suitable for them to live on any longer. So they had no choice if they wanted to survive. Yeah, it happens, you know.
This is so great to have the two of you who are very much revered and looked up to as kind of historians, librarians, but more importantly, individual beings who've actually had real-time physical experience. And both of you have brought a lot of information here that you've shared, that of course a lot of people take on as their own, and that's always been a facet of humanity, but that you've really stood strong and brought so much information for us. I personally feel really good, even though it's a bit bumpy now, about what's happening as we all seem to be in this kind of beautiful tsunami wave of evolving. How do you both feel about it?
Alex?
Well, I'm bored now.
Alex.
I jest. I'm bored waiting. I'm waiting for the apocalypse. Just kidding. I couldn't be more excited. I really couldn't be more excited. And because I know where this is going, and I know that we have incredible help, even though there's going to be a very interesting transition for humanity to come to terms with a lot of change. And I'm really excited for humanity to grasp the opportunity that is going to be presented to us, in that, hey, you are a part of the galaxy. You have a very, very ancient DNA lineage that's off the charts. You represent so many different star nations, and you have cousins and family everywhere, everywhere. And many of them are here now wanting to engage and show you your history and your past and the possibilities of the future. And literally, it's going to take a complete 180 shift in how we see ourselves. And it's going to be interesting to see how that's done. You know, if they're going to fast track it or if they're going to do it nice and slow. It's going to be interesting. Some people, it'll be fast tracked because they're going to embrace it. You know, hook, line, and sinker. They're going to want this opportunity. And then there are others who are going to be, you know, more fearful and reclusive. It's going to be interesting. I know the end result 50 years from now. It's a completely different planet, you know, completely different. But I think people are going to understand it when the different technologies are shown to them, or I should say reintroduced to the planet, you know, because they've been here before, then they were suppressed, then they were taken underground, some were taken off world, you know, but now they're all coming back. And when we realize that we don't have to pay for fuel, we don't have to pay for energy, we don't have to take drugs in order to heal our bodies.
Right.
So, just how everything works. And there are no limits to our own self-consciousness and self-awareness. It's going to be just wonderful to see people wake up to this and truly blossom into the true spiritual beings that they are. I as a father, I can't wait to get, you know, for my kids to get this, so I can look at them and see the look on their face when they finally get it. And I can go, told you so.
Told you so, you little
Told
shit.
you so.
Right.
You know,
Right.
your father isn't crazy.
You know, just very quickly, again, as a therapist, I'm always so mindful of this, and also as common sense. There's so many people who are plugged into despair and grief and loss and lack, that when they hear you say, in the next 50 years, our planet's going to look different, a part of them will drop into, oh my God, in 50 years. And Alex Collier is not saying that. He's not saying, wait for 50 more years. You're not saying that. You're saying that within that time, we are going to be witness of and witness to the most beautiful changes, the most real technology, the most beautiful, flourishing planet that she always was, with nothing held back and no single human held back.
For those who hear but don't listen, what I said was, in 50 years, we would be a completely different planet. That's what I said. Not doom and gloom, magic, incredible, futuristic, Star Trek. That's what it's going to be. We should have been there already.
Yes.
Should have been there already. That's what I said. So, because I do know that people hear, but they don't listen.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they'll fall into the bottle or whatever.
I have 5 that are like that, you know, and when I talk to them, I have them put a finger in their ear so it goes in and it bounces around before it goes out the other side.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It will be a beautiful future. It is already a beautiful future. It's stable. It's we just have to clean up the mess and finish the work, finish the cleanup. But it's done. It's done. rotten furnitures have moved out, and we just need to clean up the mess after that.
Sweep the floors.
Sweep the floors, yes. The future, it's, yes, the technology is already mass produced and ready to be implemented as soon as these unnameable people are gone from the certain governments, and we can do whatever we want. Anti-gravity technologies, free energy, the Earth repairing itself. You know, the vision I've been shown is that humanity as well is better scattered on the planet. You know, that every livable space is more balanced, the urbanization, you know, because nature grows back, and we can do a lot of things, and there are colonies in space as well. It's a wonderful future. And you know, we're talking about the Orion Wars and the Black League. Yes, the Black League at the time took a big hit and lost. But, well, they didn't lost that much because they saved entire population of entire worlds to go away and not be enslaved. So they kind of technically lost the territory, but they won a war in a way that they allow all the potential slave, all the populations to go. So the Nebu had nothing, you know. So physically lost, technically, militarily, but in the big picture they won. But they came back to finish the job. The Council of Five created this envoy program, what we call star seeds. And they were not the only one. I know the Andromedans also did, and many other high culture create these star seeds envoy programs. To Earth, the program to Earth was to enroll everyone. The Council of Five, I remember we sent a call towards everyone in the galaxy that all those who remember being in the Orion Wars, or either dead and reincarnated, or either the population that had fled, they had the opportunity to enroll in the envoy program, become a starseed on Earth, because Earth was going to be the place where the end of the war would happen, and the galaxy would be totally changed because of Earth. And the Andromedans knew that, and Alex has spoken about that enough. They knew what was going to happen. They knew that Earth was the place. Oh, man. So many of us at the Black League came and enrolled to this program to Terra to finish the job. And you know what? We did. We destroyed the Orion Hive. We destroyed the Nebu. And victory was full. We got them really in a sneaky way. They weren't expecting that.
Yeah, the end around. You know, a lot of the technology that we've had on this planet that we've been using, you know, first starts out as really cool, but then what they do is they've been able to turn it against us. But this next level of technology will actually give us freedom. It will actually give us the time and the ability to work on ourselves and actually spend time dreaming and creating an entirely new vision for not only the individual, but for cultures, for societies, for generations. And, you know, none of us know how to live without being in survival.
Mm-hmm.
Well, supposing, you know, the whole goal here is your existence is not supposed to be about survival. It's about evolving. It's about evolution. It's about evolving consciously, spiritually, so that you can become part of the heart of the galaxy. And the heart of the galaxy is peace. It's about peace. It's about sharing. It's about exploring not only other star systems and other galaxies, but each other. The heart of the galaxy is becoming a soul group. of multiple soul groups on multiple dimensions. And that there is such power, there is such grace in all of that, because wherever there's love, there's grace. And that's what it's about. That's what it's about. And you know, when you see it with the other star nations, how they act, how they are with each other, you're like, it affects you in a profound way. And there's no way that you're ever the same. And I wish that for everyone. And you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. You're gonna see it. You're gonna experience it. You're gonna participate in it, and you're gonna want it here for us, because it's the way. You know, to quote the Mandalorian, it's the way. That's the way it's meant to be. You know, the way we've been living is the way of the slave. And you're going to know the difference here pretty soon. And no one wants to live as a slave again.
Yeah,
Once you've had a taste of genuine freedom and grace, you're never going to want to be a slave again, and you will never settle for it ever again either.
Yeah. It's a bit difficult looking at you with that beautiful, big, white, fluffy ball of just unconditional love. Merlin, everybody. Those that don't know, this is Merlin. He's such a cutie patootie, isn't he?
Yeah,
Oh, so cute.
he's my handler.
Your handler. Actually, that's quite funny because he does bossy about.
He learned to tell time, you know, and every 2.5 hours, he's just like, come on, let's go. Let's go. Whether I got to go or not, we're going.
Oh my God.
He's just a hoot, you know. But yeah, he's cool. He's really cool.
Oh, I love that you love him. Well, listen, talking of people that we love, Elena, you've been very prolific. Well, actually, you have too, Alex, because you introduced us to two beautiful beings, to male, to men, Phaseus and Monet from the Andromedan star system, who you met physically at 8 years old. And we've had so many wonderful interactions with you, sharing these beings. And again, you've been clear about don't worship them. Don't be so ridiculous. They're not gods. They are people. And then Elena's come along with her military team, and that it consists of a fairly normal sized military team. And you've made it very clear from day one, they are not gods, they're not angels, they're not Jesus, they're not something that desires or has any interest to be worshipped. So we've come to understand Thorhan, we have come to understand High Commander Adana, we've come to understand Valorian, also known as Valnek, we've come to understand Annex, and those 4 physical people I myself have physically met, which is so wonderful that I can stand in my own truth and my own sovereignty and say, I too have seen these 4 beings in particular. And I know that people have been really, they like to get the updates, they like to know, because you kind of get a little bit fond, and that's human nature when you hear about people who you believe are doing good for you. So Elena, could you give us an update, please, on what those that you share with us are actually doing right now? In the real world, not in fantasy or meditation.
Well, yes. Well, in my first book, A Gift from the Stars, 3 years ago, Thorhan wanted to give a message that to him was extremely important. That because what you said made me think about it. He said it doesn't want people to adore them or consider them superior. They want people to rise in their sovereignty and consider the star nations as equals. That's what they're waiting for. And he made me write this. Was very important, saying, we are people, we are your equals, we are people like you, only born somewhere else. That's the difference. And he's been repeating this. the reason why Ea Enki doesn't want to go near Earth because it doesn't want to fall into any kind of adoration or shooting. But Thorhan is he's been promoted in the high command of his ship, which is not a big deal, but it's just a group. The high command is a group where they share intel and diplomatic intel. So he's now in the little secrets. So he's very busy. He's always going back and forth to Orion to check what's happening there. Very busy and very happy, still there on the Excelsior in orbit of Earth and meeting with some Earth generals, 4-star generals sometimes in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Does that too. That's why he's been promoted in the high command, because he can do that now because he's there. He has access to this intel and he's in contact with me. He's my contact. So that was all the plan, that I would give information of what's happening. Anax is in the Orion zone. He is very busy at the Council of Five. He has a seat there, so I'm not seeing him a lot. Very busy there. Ardana, bit less busy now in the solar system because the war is over and they're just waiting that on Earth things get finished to be cleaned up, and that Earthlings start to hit on each other and argue with each other and finally unite and to be a planetary civilization once and for all. So that's a lot of work still to do, stop arguing with each other, but it's getting there. Who else? Thorhan, Valnek. Valnek is still in his distant star system. He won't come back. He's left in 2021, October, because of the story that people know. Someone impersonating him was getting info from him. So he was asked to leave and to make things clear. And now he's still in this other star system that I cannot disclose. He's happy. He's with his partner there. And in fact, I was very upset because, Valnek is my childhood friend. I know him since I'm a little girl. He was part of the team who rescued me and, a lot of memories. And when I was, all this time, he really worked hard to in this war here, and he just has to go. But I was told that no, he likes that. Actually, he's far from all this mess, and he's in this other star system, and it's a star system that's a bit sensitive because there's a group there who's still dealing with the reptilian Sikaar and the Nebu, so they're still sensitive. So there's the Galactic Federation has an outpost there, a colony on one of the planets. And he's actually been promoted governor of the colony. So he's a governor of this colony, this outpost. So he's very happy. He enjoys his work. And so I'm happy for him. My friend Myra is in Sirius B. She's back to Sirius B. And I was promised that I would be taken to Sirius B to see how things have changed there since the Nebu have gone. So that should come soon, I hope. And I'm always giving notice, like 10 minutes before. What? Okay. So I'll keep you posted about that. That's pretty much the people. Oh, UNA, they are still here, the Intergalactic Confederation. They have actually sent 2 motherships in orbit of Earth. There were 4, now there are 6. So recently, so things are getting closer. That's what about my friend Agvaru is on Talihara, negotiating with the government there as a diplomat. So that's my friends.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I really want to encourage other people too. Last week in my house, I saw, Alex, don't make fun of its nose. It's not a pimple. It's supposed to be an actual nose. Okay, I'm not an illustrator like Elena Danan or Chris O'Connor, but this little man was in my house. And it was a little being in a big puffy spacesuit with a glass helmet on. And he was drawing my attention to the fact that there was some kind of acidic liquid inside the helmet. You know, everything is telepathic. And when I saw him, I didn't see him in my mind. I physically saw him standing over by the French doors, by the garden glass doors that go to the windows that go to the garden. And it wasn't just a millisecond flash. It was 2 or 3 seconds of this being looking at me, making sure that I would physically see him solid, and that he would draw my attention to the liquid. And this is what they do, guys. Some of the beloveds that come to visit oh my God. Yeah, extremely.
Was it him?
Yeah, see, I got the nose totally wrong. If we could just compare noses. Alex said, I thought that was a pimple. Yeah. Okay. So to you guys out there, if you feel you're having situations where you really are seeing more clairvoyantly than ever, or clairsentiently, which when you feel something, sometimes it also conjures an image in your mind, but start writing things down, start doing drawings, start honoring yourself. Follow no one. There are no leaders. If any of the people that I bring on my channel, Alex Collier, Elena Danan, Chris O'Connor, Tony Rodriguez, Brad Olson, Dr. Michael Sala, who else? Gosh, so many beautiful people. If any one of them was to say to me behind the scenes, by the way, Dani, I'm really looking for, you know, some worship here, I would never entertain them. They would not be my friends, and I would just ignore them and delete them. And any work I did with them would be deleted off my channel. So I'll never stand in alignment with liars, betrayers, and deceitful people that want to be worshipped. The days of worship they're done. That gig doesn't work. It's like, hello, earthlings, worshipping a king or a president or this, it doesn't work. Right?
Yeah, we all equal, we all eternal soul, you know. Social status, it's you know, it's nothing, it's fantasy. So social status evolved, rise, fall, it's not what makes us. Or even, you know, we are all equal as eternal being of light, of energy, of consciousness. We're all a fractal of source. So in that way, we're all equals. And we, at the moment we realize we are that powerful being, yeah. Social classes, culture, race, species, worlds, doesn't matter. It's just tools to evolve in consciousness. So we need the upstairs, they're waiting that. And I have to say, well, some religious institutions on earth have done all that was in their power to make sure that we do not remember who we are. Mm-hmm. Well, too bad, because we're doing that.
Yeah, too bad, so sad. Alex, can I come to you for some final thoughts and final words, Angel?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, when they merged all the timelines onto one, when that occurred, humanity's future changed. Now, many of the races, if not all of them, are multidimensional. They come from their time. And in virtually every instance, they have come back in time to us. And they see the future because they're coming from it. And they're coming back, and they know our potential individually and as a collective. They know our potential because our potential mirrors their accomplishments and their potential. Okay, because we're all part of similar soul groups, if not the same soul groups. One of the biggest things that will be shown to humanity, and I don't know how far off it is that the potential of our human race on Earth, the Terrans, is going to be laid out for us. They're going to lay out what our potential is. And they're going to show us the ways that we can achieve that and become that. All that will be left is for us to embrace it and do the work to get to that point. Now, they will probably share with us some of our future, which means if we know that this is the end result, all we have to do is reverse engineer our ability to get to that point. And the hardest part of this will be for everyone to drop our own personal bullshit and just make the decision to live together. Just figure it out and live together. No more killing, no more murder. None of that is necessary. We just have to learn to love together and somehow figure out mutual respect. And
Respect is the key.
if we can do that, then humanity will achieve its potential. And it's remarkable. It's nothing but promise, you know. Once you start meeting the other races and they show you their cultures, you're going to have a perspective. You're gonna know that it's achievable because they're there already, that it's achievable. And they're going to be here sharing their knowledge and letting us know that, you know, you can do this. You can be where we are. You know, the Pleiadians have had many trials and tribulations in their star systems, and they've overcome them to become an amazing race, a model of civilization. The A's too, but their journey's been different than the P's. It's been different. What do you want? What do you want? You know, are you willing to go after what you want and do it and do the right thing? Do it the right way. And take what you've learned and share that knowledge. Share the wisdom that you've acquired with others. Elevate everyone around you to the leadership role so that we become a race of leaders, not followers. And in that, we will become one soul, one group, a genuine galactic race, you know, worthy and to take our place. You know, we're no longer the slaves, we're no longer the victims. You know, we are equal at the table. Whatever table we go to, we are equal. That's the way. That's the way. And I don't know that I can say it any other way than that.
Wonderful.
So, Lady Danan, you have the button up. No pressure.
Well, I don't know how myself I can say something after this. You just have to remember, people, of course, who you are, who inhabits this amazing, unique body. When I say unique, it's because, yes, there are so many human colonies in this galaxy, but this one on Earth is special because all the different DNAs we have in these bodies, it's an honor and a privilege to be incarnated in these bodies, in these bloodlines, on this planet, which is a paradise, a gem, a jewel. So when you remember who you are, you reconnect with everyone else throughout the whole galaxy. You become one. Torhan once told me, diversity, there is diversity and unfathomable amount of diversity in the whole multiverse. And when diversity becomes so much, so diverse, so much, it then becomes one. It's like all the grains of salt on a beach becomes a beach. No more different grains of salt, of sand, it becomes a beach. When humanity was enslaved, goes back to several 100,000 years ago, they wanted humans to forget. And the only way that they could enslave humans was for them to forget. How? By instilling fear and making them believe that they worth nothing. And this abusive relationship has been going on until recently. And now we are getting out of our shell. We have kicked the abusers and we are walking into our future. And there's a small, tiny, little thing that we need to overcome is getting together, uniting. Because the divide and conquer, you've played it enough. It's over now. It's time we stop playing their games. Let us play our games. It's our planet. We play our games. We play it as we want it. Okay? And so what we want, what do you want in life? You want to be happy. You want your loved ones to be happy. You don't want to fight. You don't want to argue with everyone. That's the games of the dark ones. Of course, the difference of opinion is healthy and vital, because with the difference of opinion, it triggers your intelligence and you evolve and you see different perspective. But if you want, how do you want to merge into a galactic culture, contact? How do you want to be members of the Galactic Alliance and interact with all these races if on your planet, among yourselves, you cannot get on with each other? How do you want to get on with other people from other planets? They won't let you. So you need to do the job before, and nobody will come to do that for you. There will be no event that will do that for you. They are trying also to put you in a position of waiting, of being assisted, waiting for salvation. That's all bullshit. You do the job. You wake up, and all the rest will go. So pride in who you are, and that's it. My words.
Well done.
Well done indeed. All right. Well, gosh, that was a long drip, drip, drop, drop of many different areas, as was what we hope to do and hope to bring for you guys out there. Alex and I sat down a while ago. We went through Space Force and Tesla. I advise you myself, from me to you, to look up Solar Warden, really get your head around the fact that this is long-term military ships from the Earth militaries, from the governments on your planet. Makes it much easier when you hear that, you know, there's somebody on the news is going, oh my God, they're the mothership. Of course there's a mothership. There's lots of motherships. It's old news. You know, we got to find a bit of humor in it. You know, we got to kind of just get out there, start looking for ourselves. Project Paperclip, Operation High Jump. Many times we've tried to bring you this information. It's all there for you to see. HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, the Weather Manipulation Government Military System. Go look at that. We didn't get a chance to go into hemp and the beauty of hemp and how hemp's going to be massively grown on our planet. It's not going to belong to all the cartels. I hope they realize that. This is a natural, beautiful product that our planet gave to us. A lot of it in America was all burnt away, and then the cotton fields were then introduced. But, you know, hemp is so amazing. You can actually build a car out of hemp. And you take a sledgehammer to it and you can't even dent that bugger. Hemp is miraculous. Again, many miraculous technologies, simple, natural, organic, that were taken from us, that we, the people of our planet, my planet, your planet, our planet, we're taking back with love, with an odd boot up the arse here and there. I'm going to call you Commander. We're not allowed to do that because you're not a commander. It's just a term of endearment, Alex. It's a term of endearment, mate. Alex Collier, Elena Danan, I love you both so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to host you, share with you, and I will see you both soon. One of the next times we will physically see each other is at the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection, where Alex Collier, who has retired from public speaking, will be there in the audience. He will be there in the audience. He'll be there to hang out. We can't wait for you to be there, my love.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll be in a cheerleader mode, you know.
You better start practicing those dances with those pom-poms. That's going to be good. Yeah, so excited that you agreed to come and just play with us and just hang out, because you are so beloved. And Elena Danan, you will be a speaker on stage at GISIC. Just give us a little 2-minute. Alex graced us at the beginning of this conversation with how he felt about being there in the audience and what GISIC, the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, meant to him. Give us a synopsis, Elena, please, of what it actually meant to you to be there and the feelings that you felt.
Well, to me, it was the energies, connecting with people. You know, I've been used to speak with other speakers via Zoom, via internet, but meeting physically, you enter in contact with their energy field, with each other's energy field, and you know them, you know, and we know each other. We know who we are. We recognize the, you know, the energies, the genuinity, the pure heart. We see each other. We see each other. And this experience was also felt by 1,000 people among each others. People who came for maybe different reasons, but at the end were same reason: connecting. And it was such a frequency of love. When I was standing on stage, although I couldn't hug everyone in the room, I could feel the heart-to-heart connection. And there was kind of an